Want to create a compassionate classroom? Try experiential learning. Welcome to Hack Learning. It's what you can do tomorrow. I'm your host, Mark Barnes, and today we are talking again about compassionate classrooms, and I think this is a topic that we cannot talk about enough. And I want to share with you experiential learning as outlined in Hacking School Culture, Designing Compassionate Classrooms by Angela Stockman and Ellen Gray. And experiential learning is something that I know some educators have shied away from because they think that it doesn't fit. Let me share with you what the authors of Hacking School Culture say. Sometimes experiential learning is used synonymously with project-based learning, cooperative learning, service learning, or situated learning, all of which are noble and worthy endeavors that can inspire active learning. Experiential learning is reflection-driven, though. It happens when we immerse learners in first-hand, concrete experiences and prompt a level of analysis that helps kids conceptualize what they're discovering. Education theorist David Cobb's One experiential learning theory is founded on the premise that human beings learn by doing as they move through these four stages: active engagement in a new experience that provides opportunities for learning, reflecting on the experience, theorizing in order to explain observations, and experimenting with the theories in order to problem solve or make decisions. A typical experiential learning event might look something like this. The learner chooses to actively participate in a meaningful and authentic experience, intentionally reflecting on what is learned throughout the process, establishing theories about what happened and why and how it will inform their choices moving forward. Then, the learner uses what is learned from these discoveries to enrich other experiences and experiment with them in diverse contexts. How might experiential learning help us create compassionate classrooms? Take a peek at what you can do tomorrow and how you might leverage experiential education to build and sustain a culture of compassion inside of your entire system. What you can do tomorrow. Role play and simulation are two experiential learning approaches that most teachers can attempt with relative ease. The first involves assuming the role of a person or a character that we hope to understand better. The second involves recreating situations, environments, and processes for the same reason. Co-design meaningful, concrete experiences that provoke empathy. Who or what do students need to understand better in order to become more compassionate? How are they privileged? What kind of experiences might challenge and enlighten them? How might you create a simulation or role-playing activity that provokes empathy? You might begin by inviting learners to explore what they have and what they have not. Provide each student an index card. Then, ask questions that help them define the ways in which they are or are not privileged. Invite them to record what they have and have not on their index cards. Engage equitably. Allow students to remain anonymous by inviting them to type their lists or narratives rather than using their own handwriting if they choose. Ensure that all learners have offered responses and prepare a space for each of them to Ensure that all learners have offered responses and prepare a space for each of them on the line. Make sure that role assignments is random. Consider drawing cards if you have the time, and let students know that this is a silent simulation. No one should speak unless they're invited to. Coach reflection before, during, and after the experience. These frames are helpful. Reflect inwardly. How is the experience changing your thoughts, feelings, or perceptions? Reflect outwardly. How is the experience changing others' thoughts, feelings, or perceptions? Reflect back. How is the experience informing something that happened in your past? Reflect forward. How might the experience inform your future choices? Teach them to theorize. Once the role play or simulation is over, challenge students to use their reflections about the experience to create theories about problems they could be seeking and how they might solve them. Where might they practice more compassion? How? Invite experimentation. Challenge students to act on their learning and to document their findings as they do. This would make for great reflective journal writing. Students could also build action, research projects around the learning that emerges from role play or simulation, build a meaningful bridge between experiential and authentic learning. Students could also build action research projects around the learning that emerges from role play or simulation, building a meaningful bridge between experiential and authentic learning. Now, you may push back, and the authors deal with this in this hack. Let me share with you some of the pushback that is anticipated with experiential learning and what the authors say. I have a ton of content to cover, and this has nothing to do with it. Experiential learning brings content to life. We study literature, music, art, and philosophy because all of them teach us how to be thoughtful, discerning, and influential humans who live with purpose and communicate with intention. Each memorable moment in history offers profound lessons in compassion. So does every work of literature, every song, and every work of art. Compassion is a lens that creates critical context for learners in every content area. For example, how might you use experiential learning to explore the role that compassion played in the decisions that historical figures made and, more important, the effects of those decisions? How might you use it as a lens that illuminates the power and purpose of math and science and the unintended consequences of practicing either without empathy? It's not enough to cover your content. Situate it within the study of compassion so that it might matter. Make it stick. Another pushback. Experiential learning can cause high emotion, and I'm not sure how to handle that. Protocols ensure equity, and they also create containers for the dissonance that emerges. Norming your conversations is important too. Be honest with your students from the outset. Tell them that experiential learning might make them feel vulnerable at different points. Define dissonance and share your own experiences with them. Then, engage them in collective boundary setting. Invite them to define all of the potential hotspots in the learning experience they are about to embark on. Challenge them to create norms that everyone will commit to following. If you'd like more guidance for this work, drop into the supplemental resources folder for this hack. Another piece of pushback. My students won't take this seriously. This may not at first, and if this is your experience, do your best. They may not at first, and if this is your experience, do your best to respect their discomfort. Anticipate a bit of silliness or even resistance and meet it with compassion. Do not change your expectations, though. In our experience, students often welcome opportunities to role play if the context for the work is one they're personally struggling with or have strong feelings about. They often want to play with it in a collaborative setting and role play offers them a safe opportunity to do so. After all, they don't have to speak for themselves or reveal their own feelings or opinions on a matter when they've assumed the role of another. Experiential learning works best when kids have some skin in whatever game you're playing, along with opportunities to hide inside of someone else's. The learning has to matter, but so does the design of the experience. Structures that enable kids to uncover and wrestle with their own biases without experiencing shame work best. Others tend to disengage and even hurt them. We need compassionate classrooms. We want kids who are tolerant of others. We want a cultural experience that is accepted and is enriching. We want compassionate classrooms. And too often, we allow the curriculum to get in the way. I invite you to take a look at Hacking School Culture, Designing Compassionate Classrooms by Angela Stockman and Ellen Gray, because they are providing a blueprint for not abandoning curriculum, but for using it in a way combined with other experiential learning and other facets of creating compassion. These amazing educators help you to not abandon your curriculum, but to leverage it in a way that will also cultivate the compassion, tolerance, and empathy that we want our students to have. And once they do have that, the learning that they can do while being compassionate, amazing individuals who will contribute to society is boundless. Thanks for listening. Check out Hacking School Culture and other Hack Learning books today at hacklearningbooks.com and other episodes of the podcast at hacklearningpodcast.com.